What words?
I don't know.
I think I've done it again.
Just, you know what? This is one shot. We're just going to go through. It doesn't matter. Hello and welcome to Noises Were Made, music-based podcast where we connect our passions with life to the people that make it happen. Thank you for joining us this week. As you may have guessed, I have a guest today. See what I did there? That was quite good, wasn't it? Guessed that I had a guest. It's good that. I like that. Didn't mean to do it. But yes, have a guest with me today. And best way to kick off doing any of these interviews that we're going to be having is a series looking at people talking about their passions and how it all connects back to music, sounds and entertainment, everything and everything in between. So my first guest is my best friend, and that's probably the best way to kick anything off. So please introduce yourself.
I'm your best friend. Hello, I'm Paul. How are you? I feel like I'm in on the Enterprise in this booth that we're in.
The Enterprise.
Yeah, like Picard. I'm expecting
okay,
Picard to come out and just go.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Is this a ball joke?
No. It generally feels very Star Trek-y. It's good. It's good.
You sure?
Yeah, I don't know if your listeners have seen it, but it's it's a good atmosphere.
It's good. I'll take that all day long. It's I wasn't sure. I was worried then. You said Enterprise. I was thinking, where are we going? Because that could be Sam Quantum Leap Enterprise, the series.
No, Picard. That's what I was thinking.
Is that the fact? Yeah. Is that the default? If you said Star Trek, if someone says Star Trek to you, do you think Picard?
Yeah.
Wow, that's just its own can of worms, isn't it? Blimey. Don't know if Grant would be happy with that, but you know. Wow. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on the show. As you might have guessed, it's going to be slightly different format to normal. I won't just be talking to myself like a lunatic. I actually have someone to talk with me. And I didn't have to pay him anything at all other than chocolate bars. But today I wanted to mix up two of my passions. So, as you know, very passionate about music. But the other thing, or one of the many things I'm passionate about, is basketball. Played basketball quite a long time. And the reason I play basketball is because of Paul. So Paul himself is the announcer currently for the Portsmouth Force, who are a divisional team in the UK Basketball League. And I thought it'd be quite interesting for everyone to hear what it is about basketball, because we associate sports a lot of the time. People think of something like football and it's played a certain way and it's played in a stadium, etc., etc. But lots of the other sports don't get the same sort of coverage in media, I think it's fair to say. So a lot of the time people aren't aware that there are local basketball teams all over the country, and we just happen to be in a place in the country where we've got quite a good history with basketball, I think it's fair to say. So that's why I wanted Paul to come on and sort of really talk about the team, where they've come from, what you're doing at the moment and where you're going, and how atmosphere, music and things all play a part in bringing entertainment to a game of basketball.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? The people of Portsmouth, there's a lot of them there that don't know what we're doing, that don't know what's happening at, Ravelin Sports Centre, National League. We haven't had National League basketball in a city for a decade.
And Ravelin's the university.
Yeah, the university sports hall, the brand new sports hall. And you know what? The only thing I can say, if anyone is vaguely interested in basketball, you will have an amazing night at watching Portsmouth Force home game, 100%. Over the season, and this is kind of what you wanted me to talk about, over the season, I've been working on the entertainment side of things for the audience, and that has, I guess, what's the right word, evolved over the season. When we started, it was going through the PA in the roof of Ravelin, and then using a PA system on the side, and then turned into the jet engine speakers you told me to get, and boom, all of a sudden, we're turning lights down, we're looking at getting spotlights and all this, and there's been, this is just my view, but there's been, I feel, a correlation to the number of people coming for the home games, the attendance, and the entertainment side of things.
So they're coming. So do you think people are viewing it as
It's an entertainment package.
I was about to say an entertainment package rather than just a sport on its own, in its own.
Yeah, 100%. So, like, as an example, you gotta like the sport to come and watch what I'd call purist basketball. So you're sitting there watching a basketball game and that's it. Let's say your kid wants to go to the basketball game and you're now watching it with your kid, but you've got the entertainment thing and all the fun fun things happening alongside that, the music, the razzmatazz and all that. It's makes you want to go back because you had a good time.
The what? The razzmatazz.
The razzmatazz.
We're going back to the 30s. Well, is that what we're doing? The razzmatazz.
Yeah, you can do.
Jazz hands, tap dancers. Is that what happens? No, I think it's important for people to understand who haven't been to an actual, I won't say a real, but like an NBA game. That's the NBA in America, National Basketball Association, is like the pinnacle. That's like the equivalent of the Premiership or globally in terms of basketball. So maybe it's worth sort of explaining to those who haven't experienced one of the games yet. What is it? What is it that you walk into? So when you're going into the stadium, what is it? How people are greeting you and the atmosphere, and then what do people expect from a game like that?
Yeah, well, it's the whole entertainment package, isn't it? So you come into the arena, you've got all the music blaring, and I don't want to say the game's a small part of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
So from something very simple to a player scoring, you're playing this huge alarm sound that going alongside it, as well as going Mark Chester like that, and you know what, and then going straight into the defensive chant.
That could be a doorbell, couldn't it?
The what?
That could be a doorbell.
I can do a good one if you want.
I'd like a good one. Do me a
Mark
good
Chester.
one. Yeah.
What, the full thing or just Mark Chester? What? So you
mean the full
number? You were
thing?
15, weren't you?
Number 15. That's correct.
Okay.
Mark Chester.
At small forward, number 15, Mark Chester.
Yeah, that could
Is
be.
that all right?
Yeah, I like that. That could be a doorbell. Definitely. If everyone presses the door, instead of that bing bong, the old ring thing, we're going to get that. Although then that's announcing me to them, even though they're the one coming to my house.
Wow.
I'm going to have to think this through. But so, as you've just demonstrated, you do the announcing. And that's a part of this. But the announcing it's not just at the beginning of, I want to say, the show almost. That's not just the beginning, is it? That's all the way through.
Yeah, 100%. So,
do you treat it? Do you think it is a show? Is it?
Yeah.
You have to plan things. There's an element of choreographing it and lights and.
You've got levels that people don't even consider when you're doing this. So, when the chairman said to me, look, we need a game day, I think he explained it as a game day manager to announce and that was kind of it, play a bit of music. I was like, sure, I'll do it. But you know me, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well or try and do it. You're
There's
looking
a few
at me weird
jokes
now.
I've sidestepped there purposely, but
I just want to give it my all, and because of the influence from the NBA, and you know what, I'm going to say it like it is, the British basketball can be a boring environment. When you're looking at purist basketball, you've got to love the sport to watch the game. But for people coming with their kids or something like that, they're not going to be as entertained. So that's where the idea started coming from.
Because everyone on the court loves it.
Oh, 100%.
And as much as there's been rivalries through the years with certain players and certain teams, the reality is everyone playing the game love basketball and like the game. And I won't say it's not that it's not native to the UK, but it's something that's growing.
No,
but,
you're right.
We are home to football, and football's the biggest sport in the world. So it's never ever going to be football in the UK. You go to countries like Greece and Spain and something with basketball is really, if not number one sport up there, it's really up there.
Oh, it's a national sport.
Whereas you go to basketball in the UK and people might talk about it, but they don't necessarily associate it with, you got football, you got cricket, you got rugby.
Yeah.
And then somewhere down the line, there's a few other things.
Basketball is a very growing sport
Yeah.
in the UK, very growing. But you did touch on something quite important there. I think when you were talking about FIBA, so the European side of basketball, it's very, especially in like Eastern Europe, it's very, I want to say like a football crowd.
Yes, yeah.
In the UK, we're not like that.
No.
You know, we're not turning up with flares and stuff like that. It's not we're more of an NBA style.
Is that the next thing? We're going to have flares in the crowd?
No.
Do you think Rob would appreciate that?
Nuts. Yeah. It'd be great, but no, there's no way that would be able to happen.
I'll make some calls. It's fine.
So that's kind of where the concept started growing. So when we first had the first game, and I was just kind of just tiptoeing around it, playing a bit of music, kind of introduce the teams. And
is that allowed?
What, introducing the teams? Yeah, very much so. At the moment, I mean, the guidance from BE, so BE is British Basketball England.
Yep.
The guidance from them is 100% you can do intros.
Yep.
Where I'm trying to get clarity, and I've been working with them last kind of 6 months trying to get clarity, is around what you can do during the play of the game.
So is it something that only the Portsmouth Force do, or do other teams do this?
No, I mean you've got the BBL. Definitely, they'll be doing it.
And is that BBL's the top?
Yeah,
tier?
so you got BBL. That's like the Premiership, and then
Okay.
you got National League Div 1, 2, 3, and we're in National League Div 3.
So the top leagues do this already.
In BBL, yes,
and
they will do
basketball.
it to a different standard. It will be a very British. Some of it might be a bit Americanized. Others might be. You might have like maybe a DJ, and he'll be shouting a lot at the crowd, like, "Come on, start shouting defense," and then they'll.
Okay.
And that's the kind of model at the moment. You go somewhere down the road at like the Kestrels, and they'll have the music and the intro, and the announcing will be who scored and stuff like that. So I think the only guidance I really got from BE, and it was like, got to use that to our advantage here, was you can be more enthusiastic for the home team.
Yep.
That's the only guidance I've got. So it's like, right, okay, cool. So,
but you can't be negative, obviously.
No, you can't be derogatory, racial, anything like that. You're crazy. Even thinking about it. No, can't do any of that.
Do the old X Factor every time they miss.
In basketball, you don't want that. You don't have that in basketball, do you? It's a more it's a
positivity.
It's a nice positive family environment. Maybe is probably the word to say. It's very like rugby. You can sit in a jersey next to someone else from the other team, right next to them, talking to each other whilst watching the game. You're not going to get that in football.
I certainly experienced that in different stadiums in America as well. I mean, the last game we both went to was in Orlando, but Orlando itself is a very family-orientated place. So going back to, say, New York where I've been, or Boston and places, it was the same scenario. Miami as well. It's all the same scenario. You can sit with people like a rugby crowd. Doesn't matter who you sat next to. Yeah. Everyone's there to appreciate the game, and because of that, it is a very positive atmosphere. And that's where I, like you say, the entertainment for me, watching basketball was as much going there. Oh, what's the mascot doing? He's eating someone's popcorn, or he's fallen down a staircase, or obviously planned, not by accident. But that is all part of. It's not just I'm going to watch people score points in a game. It's so much more than that.
Yeah.
Whereas with something like football, you go and you watch the football and maybe have a sing along. Even rugby to a point, same, cricket, any of those what we call big British sports, it's the same thing. It's just you're there to watch the sport, not to enjoy the atmosphere. I think rugby maybe actually it's got a good atmosphere itself. Formula One, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, but what you're hitting on is, again, going back to what you said, is a bit of a show.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to create at Portsmouth Force.
So cheerleaders?
Cheerleaders coming next season.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because they were getting rid of a lot of them in the NBA.
I mean, that is a topic that you got to tread on eggshells with that topic, isn't it? So, you know, I think
purposely driving that bus over you there.
A lot of, you know, you got like, the Laker girls and stuff like that. And now it's a lot of the team, or no, I know maybe some of the teams are turning more into entertainment dancers.
Dance troops, yeah.
You know, like men and women coming together and doing a thing rather than just
a bit like the varsity cheerleading, where they do it's a dance troupe thing, isn't it? Where you've got varsity stuff, like they do the big competitions, and it's quite a big thing in the States, isn't it? Where they have like professional cheerleading competitions, rather than just someone's wearing something scantily clad and just bouncing around. It's actually like a gymnastics display.
But that all comes into it.
Yeah,
like that's that halftime thing. So there's a lot that comes into it now, and you know, because we were in Orlando in October 2019. Is it 2019?
Yep.
And
pre the end of the world.
Yeah, but it's quite interesting how things kind of turn out. So when Rob says, you know, can you do the announcing and the thing, I was like, okay, sure, I'll give it a try. But then you look back and you're thinking at all those things that you picked up from watching the Magic play, and then all of a sudden listen to a basketball or watch a basketball game and try not to listen to the commentators, but listen to the atmosphere in the crowd, and you realise how much is actually going on. Like you touched on something there. You said about the mascot. You know, I know kids who will sit and watch a mascot for an entire half. That is entertainment for the kid for a half a game. I mean, they're missing the game, but you know what? It's entertaining them.
I've got a good entertainment story for you, actually.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because you were really entertained when the last game we went to. We went and sat in specific seats. So, what was your memory of that? Going to those, because we sat, I won't say like VIP in a snobby way, but we managed to get really good seats, centre court, and we were only like 4 rows back, so it was
literally best NBA game experience.
You could just hear the players, you could hear the contact between the players.
Yeah.
But you said to me afterwards that was like the best experience you'd had as a game, because not only were you hearing all the players and feeling that, you got more appreciation for the physicality.
Yeah, 100%. You can,
as well as all the other things that are going on.
You hear the hits.
Yeah,
and it's like.
So it's interesting, because where in the league at Ravlin, for example, the crowd are very close to the games, so the crowd are very interactive as a crowd, which is brilliant for the players. But as a result, they are really experiencing a proper basketball game up close. They're not sitting miles and miles away like you would in some sports. The crowd get involved.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're experiencing now at Portsmouth Force, where, you know, some of maybe the university players, you know, they all have crowds for the university games, but it's a different environment, the Portsmouth Force. I would say towards the end of the season, that's kind of when we really got it right, and that's when the attendance was, you know, last 3-4 home games sell out.
Oh yeah, sell out.
You know, and we were looking at thinking, well, we're going to have to start putting chairs on the other side of the court.
You're wearing a little bit of merch there, I see. But
Portsmouth Force t-shirt representing, mate. Yeah.
But I noticed in those last sort of games, those last 4 or 5 games, more and more t-shirts cropping up.
Yeah.
And
a referee asked me, "Can I buy a t-shirt?" Just because he was there and he went, "This is an amazing atmosphere."
Yeah, it's nice when you have that positivity, and like you know, I wanted you on here because, you know, it's not nice to have my best mate here, but at the same time, as well as being, you know, you play musical instruments and you have appreciation for putting on a show and you have history in that, but what you're doing now is, like you say, you're putting a show on for people, and there's such a correlation between like doing a live event, whether it's live music or probably stand-up comedy, or you're putting on a production for people. And like when you put a show on, like an acoustic gig, like you've done in the past, you want the crowd to interact with that. 100%. You don't just want it to be, I'm going to sit here, press a load of buttons, play some music, and nothing happen. Like a DJ set, you want to feel the vibe and the atmosphere. But it's a home advantage, isn't it?
100% a home advantage. And if the team win at the end of the day, I'm happy. That's all I'm kind of trying to do. I mean, the home court advantage really comes from the crowd.
Yes.
Now, what I can do as, I don't know what you call it,
And that's any
musical
sport.
director or whatever it is of the sound, you know, I can play stuff, you know, I mean, you got jingles here and stuff like that where you can be playing the hits.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got those things where it's like these sort of things, haven't you? It's that kind of stuff that you're playing over the background of someone just walking a ball up the court.
Yeah, but there'll be jingles that we'll play that will naturally get people defense, or let's go Portsmouth, let's go.
Yep.
I mean, they're the two standard chants.
Yep.
So there are tunes you can play. Again, the classic is everybody clap your hands. You play that,
Yeah, you got to do that.
and you see 350 people clap their hands. Like,
Yep.
we deliberately do that at the start of the quarter, or maybe in the middle of the quarter somewhere. So we won't do it too often. But again, it's just getting the crowd behind the team.
So how do the refs and the visiting teams take that? Because it's a different show. It's, you know, they're used to turning up to maybe an empty sports hall, playing with, you know, maybe a couple of people's parents or partners or whatever. It's a bit like going to do a pub gig when you're 17 or something, and you got your mum and two of your mates there, kind of scenario. They don't have a huge crowd coming. They're coming into like an arena where they've got sound, turning lights on and off. You've got announcers, you've got music, you've got background, you've got a crowd cheering. It's very visceral. It's a real. You know, what do what do the refs think of that just on their own? Because they obviously go to other places where they're like,
it's been a journey. That's how I describe it. It's been a journey throughout the season. Now, I'd say as far as the visiting team, that's easy to answer, because every home game I've had at least 2 or 3 players from the visitors come up to me and say, this is the best in the league, easily.
Why? Why do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if people are playing music. They might be playing music, but I don't know. We've just taken it up another level. So,
is it the same level then as the top flight, or is it?
No, I mean they will have.
Or is it at a different? Is it a different direction? Is it a similar direction to the top flight, or do they do?
I'd say it's very. The setup we got now is very NBA-ish.
Wow.
So the American environment, that's what it's kind of based on.
Where a lot of people will be watching NBA games, so they will be thinking, "Hey, yeah, you know, this is what I would love to be." They're getting their own taste for being an NBA player.
Exactly.
Anyway.
And you know, where it's I don't want to say anything negative about any other teams, but you will go to get other teams in the league and they won't have anything.
No.
So then they come to us and you got 350 people watching a game, cheering, plus all the music, plus all the announcing, plus all the noises that are going off, all the jingles trying to put pressure on the ball and stuff like that. It creates this huge environment. And you know, if you look at the attendance at the start of the season, we were getting, I don't know, 100 people, and that's when we were just working it out. And then I think around Christmas, I think we had 5 home games, and then we got your jet engines that you said, oh, why don't you put these in? And we went on the other side of the court. As soon as we went to the other side of the court and we faced it on the crowd,
it got bigger.
Then everything changed.
Do you think then that because you are putting on more of a show, that you say that's bringing people in that respect, but at the same time you are putting a bit of pressure on the players?
Yeah, you could look at it like that. You know, they're
not only playing, you know, playing in a home crowd, you've got a bigger crowd that they're playing. You know, so a lot of these teams aren't playing to 300 people, and so I mean that puts pressure on people visiting for a start. But at the same time, they're thinking, wow, you know, a lot of these guys, they're not old, are they? They're not old players.
No, most of them are younger. Well, we do have one. Probably have got one of the oldest players in the league at the moment, I would guess, which is Andy Rowlands, but he's currently playing for Great Britain over 50s. He was captain last year, and he's about to go and play in the World Championships as well. So he's in the team. But then, you've got his mind, his experience with, there's a 16-year-old in the team.
Yeah.
And then university players, and then most of the players are at 20-something.
So how do they get into the team then? How does someone say, there might be people listening now thinking, oh, I wouldn't mind having a crack at playing basketball and can play. I wouldn't mind getting involved in the team. How do they get on it?
The setup is there now. So we've got National League basketball from men's all the way down to under 12s. Wow. And then you've got fun fundamentals, is what we call it, which is like, you can bring a 3-year-old down. So we've got any kid who wants to play basketball in Portsmouth can come and play basketball from 3 years old. And if you're good enough, you go National League, and you can go National League all the way up to the men's team and play NBL Div 3. Well, hopefully we'll go up higher. And if we go up higher, you never know, you might have a couple of NBL teams, maybe 1 and 1 and 2 and stuff like that. But just to go back to something you said, I think the standard by the end of the season, I think personally maybe the last 3-4 games is what I'd highlight on. It felt like the standard had just gone up, and we'd set a tone, and there was a direct correlation between crowd attendance, I thought. Yep.
And also crowd interaction.
Oh, 100%. And you know what? Because we have got a challenge now, because in the last couple of games, because we've put seats on, we got one side of the court, we got bleachers, and on the other side of the court, we just had a row of seats. Yep. Now you're very close to the court in those seats, so it's very tempting in the modern style of basketball when someone scores for the people to stand up and all this. They can't step on the court. If they step on the court, there's a problem, and they're so close. That's going to be a challenge. I noticed a couple of games, it was like we had to tell someone you cannot go on the court. But you know what, they're good problems to have. And going back,
having lots
to
of
the
attendees,
referees,
definitely.
Yeah, and going back to the referees, it's been a journey. So, because there's no guidance from BE, there's no guidance from BE with what you can and can't do. I might go to a referee and he'll say, well, it gives you a home court advantage. You can't do anything. You can't play anything. And it's like, okay, do you want me to ask the crowd to be quiet as well?
Yeah, home court advantage is home court advantage. That's every game, everything, everywhere. It doesn't, But in cricket, I'm playing in my home ground rather than something else.
Yeah, exactly. But the reason I say it's been a journey, because I think the referees, obviously, you might have the same referee over the season, and as they've been coming back and they've got used to what we're doing, they're like, well, all we're doing, and this is probably the best wording I can think of, is complementing the game.
Yeah, 100%.
So once they probably have a couple of minutes of what we're doing, they're like, fine, and they switch off. I think where I've been working with BE is BE need to do the guidance of this is what you can and can't do. Yep. Like, I don't want to be having discussions for 20 minutes with referees of, guys, just to let you know, we're playing jingles during the game, we play things when people score. I don't want to be doing that. I just want to go, look, I know what the rule book is, and this is what we're doing. You know what the rule book is. We all know it's kind of square, but BE need to come up with that guidance.
So you have obviously come up through youth basketball. You also did reffing for a while as well.
Yeah.
Do you think that helps because you are, I'm not being saying sympathetic to the refs, but you're trying to keep them aware of this is what we're doing? Because I imagine some people who would be doing announcing might not be basketball players, or they just say, can you go on the mic? And they might not even have experience of playing music or live things. So they just want to call something out.
Yeah, so, no, there's definitely some strengths there for sure.
Because you have that history of doing those things, it's a good problem to have that you can do these, but at the same time, if the league wanted to say you can do this, there must be like a threshold saying you can have someone on the announcers table, but they have to do things a certain way. They must have to put some framework. Yeah.
And I think where there's no guidelines at the moment, there's nothing that says you can play music during the game. I mean, is that
licensing, or is that, do you think?
No, it's just, I've been to games when I was playing. I remember Brixton. We went up there. They had a full-on DJ doing a set really loud during the game. There's nothing to say you can or cannot do that. So that's where I think they need guidelines. I think when you have that kind of DJ going on in the game, that's too much.
Yeah.
I think when you look at what we're doing, we're just complementing the game. And just going back to something you said earlier, which I think is really important, because I've spoken to some of the players about this, about the pressure that they're under,
Yep.
and how do they think about that. They love it. They love it. They go to the away game and they're like, there was nothing there. There was a little speaker in the back. They come to the home game and go, I've got 350 people cheering me on. I have
They're like
the
feeling
intro.
special.
They're like feeling special.
Not that we're saying that any professional sports people are prima donnas, but
No.
they do love the attention.
But you know what? There's one moment for me, and I knew we were doing the right thing with the jingles. So by jingles, I mean, if you've got an example you can play, but
Yeah.
by jingles, the first time we did it, we've got the captain of Portsmouth Force is called Ollie Blake, and the jump ball happened. He got the ball. We pressed play on the jingle, and he started dribbling up the court to this.
Yeah.
And now this will go on for 24 seconds. And when it finishes, it's basically saying, you need to shoot. He needs to shoot the ball now.
Yep.
So at the start of it, when you get the dan, 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 Ollie got the ball,
Yeah.
started dribbling up, and I could see in his face just lit up.
Yeah.
His face just lit up, and you could see he was like, this is bloody awesome. And as soon as I saw his face, I turned around to you guys and went, we're doing the right thing here. This is just complementing the game.
I mean, again, it is giving an advantage. There's no way around that. But at the same time, you should have home court advantage, because that's why it's called home court advantage.
Well, exactly. Like, do I tell ask the fans, can you stop cheering? Because you need everything to be equal. And you know what? In fairness, for Portsmouth Force, what we've done, there was one game, I can't remember who it was against, but we were winning by 25. So the music that's Let's Go Whoever,
Yep.
I started playing for the away team.
Yeah.
And that, I think, highlights the environment of basketball.
Yep, absolutely. We all love the game. We all want to enjoy it, and whether rivals on and off, it's you look at someone like Kobe, who was probably a vicious opponent. It's probably fair to say, or Jordan or anyone like that. Once they left it on the court, but you play the game and you want to win, but at the same time, afterwards, you all love the sport. It's all the same sport. You all love it, and I think it's an interesting problem to have that you've got, where you're pushing through a ceiling that it's like a glass ceiling that's no one's really defined it. Other people do it. Other places do it. Everyone knows that you hear sound effects like that, and it's that's a basketball game. That's what happens. So people would be used to it, and yet there's no guideline or rule, or you can do this, you can't play something that's that, or you can do this, or there's a certain way of saying it, and it's
BE and currently working through the guidelines now. So
I imagine the venues play a part as well, because when you go to live music, someone will say, I want to turn up and play this amp. So, well, we can't. We have a volume limit, for example. So at the moment, obviously, Ravlin...
That's painful, isn't it? I remember doing gigs where they got a volume limit. You're playing and everything cuts out other than the drums.
Yeah. Now, nowadays, it's got even better, where there's bands and they say, the guitarist, we don't have amps on stage.
Really?
Yeah. So the amp either has to go out off stage and they mic it up, or you're not allowed an amp at all. Here's a box, and it's a direct box that you connect to, and it connects to the soundbar. That's it. So there's no amp. So yeah, it's an interesting one. And incidentally, one of the local festivals, that scenario's happened, where they've said, we don't have certain amps on certain stages because we've got it set up for a main act. So everyone else has to just go through.
Is this Victorious?
Yep. And
I mean, yeah, I think the sound checking at Victorious is generally quite poor, isn't it?
It hasn't been my favourite experience.
No, I went to see. I was there last year, and I saw. I think a couple of bands, but the one I really remember was Cooler Shaker. So someone's going to come out. They're going to play their big hits, first and second song. You couldn't even hear him, and it was like I remember thinking, are they doing the sound check now? And then all of a sudden, halfway through the second song, bam, you could hear his voice. And it's like, you're doing the sound check.
But that in itself is its own question, because when you see an artist like you went and saw the Stones many years ago, when you go see them, you want them to play their hits. You want them to play certain songs. Someone like them, they've got how many albums out? I don't even know anymore. But they've got X amount of time to play, and they're going to play at least 15 of them hits that everyone knows, and then across other albums play certain ones that they really want to, and then they'll maybe dust in one or two songs from a new album that's coming out. So Cooler Shaker, same sort of thing. I could probably name two of their songs. I'd probably hum them. I wouldn't know the names. I'm terrible with that. But when someone like Prince, for example, famously, someone said, "Why don't you play these songs on this tour?" And he's like, "Well, if you want to listen to that song, go buy the CD." You know, he said, "This tour is to promote this new album." And you think, can't argue with that. But
It's a good album, yeah.
Exactly. But at the same time, you think all these people have turned up to hear because they've got a certain expectation of what a show's about. And that's what I was thinking when I'm saying about these shows that you're putting on. You've built a certain level now. So everyone from last season who's come to the show and watched the game and heard the announcers, the music, and the lights go down, and all these little things that you've built up, when next season kicks off, they're all going to expect that. That's the level now.
And I think we should hit it from.
So where does it go?
Pre-season.
But where does it go?
Well, I mean, you've got the cheerleaders coming in next season. I think it would be
I haven't got my uniform yet.
I think
Does Rob need to send one to me?
I can ask him if you want one. I think you've got little small touches like, big Portsmouth Force flags waving, kids waving them whilst the players are being announced and stuff like that. That could happen. A mascot would be amazing.
What about like the ball boys or people who are doing the sweeping up the sweat, to put it bluntly?
Yeah, I mean that kind of started kicking in towards the end of last season.
So you're going to carry that on?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's the youth players who are kind of doing that. Just want to be part of it. I think at the moment, and you know what, with the Portsmouth games, every little thing, we're adding something every home game. That's the way I've been looking at it. It's been getting better and better. Like, we got there early and we were setting up, and I saw this kind of box on the wall, and it had like a I don't know how to explain it, like a thing that you could move up and down from 1 to 4. And I was like, "What's that? Is that for the temperature or something?" And the guy goes, "No, that's the light switch." And I was like, "Oh, it doesn't do it quick, does it?" Or the lights just go straight down. And it was like, all right, well, we now know we're turning the lights off for the player intros. Like, brilliant. And yeah, so like every home game is going to be another step. And the chairman, Rob Milner, he's got a great problem where I think the package that we're selling is just building, getting bigger and bigger. And his challenge now is
having a large package.
Well, you'd have to ask someone else, but he would like to get more people into the arena.
Yeah, how many do you think? It was a question I was thinking about of if you had that stadium and it was I don't know. I guess if you could put bleachers on both sides.
I mean, ideally, you would need. You haven't got the rings in the middle, so you can't do that. So, I mean, you're going to have bleachers down the side. We started putting chairs down the short side of the court. There's, we've got these two corners that we could put something. I think probably the baseline is too much, but at one end of the baseline, I noticed you've got these kind of like an open window area.
Yep.
All the kids sit on that. They like that.
Yep.
Quite close to
It's
the
like a
action.
balcony sort of thing.
It's
isn't it?
like
Yeah.
the under 12, under 14 teams just sat on this on this thing by the basket. I feel you could probably get 500 in there.
So how important is, you've touched on the youths a few times about them feeding through. How important do you think having a National League team again in Portsmouth will be for the amount of kids going to youth basketball and the numbers increasing? And
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. And you know what? I think it is a credit to, I'll say Rob and the other coaches, but specifically the Portsmouth Force men's National League head coach,
Yep.
Daniel Fatimade. I think he deserves a lot of credit for the. I'm trying to find the right words for the player attitude that he's created. Like you've walked in there, and you've got those players coming up to you. Hello, sir. How are you, sir? Thank you very much for helping us out today. I don't know a single player that doesn't refer to me as sir. Even the head coach calls me sir. I just keep saying, call me Paul. They keep calling me sir.
it's just because you're old.
It's a sign of respect. And you know what, the younger teams, the National League teams, they idolize these players. Like we see kids giving them pictures and getting high fives and
Yep.
looking at me going, he high-fived me, wow. And and I think what Dan's created as far as creating those characters with the respect that they have is a huge compliment to him. And I think he is extremely deserving of he just won Division 3 National League Coach of the Year.
Oh wow, congratulations.
And he is extremely deserving of that.
So what happens next year? New season coming up. When's the season start?
Well, I think with the pre-season, it's going to be September. And I think the season kicks in end of September, early October. We won't know till the fixtures come out. But we've still got, a good bunch of the guys playing for us. We've got Simon Nolini Perkun.
Yep.
What a player. What a player he is. You kind of, can build a team around him. He just gets the ball and goes. We've seen him fly through the air this year. And
There's definitely step changed the pace of some of the games as well when they've been a bit static, and then he's just added something, and then then the whole team gets the spirit and everyone then runs with it, so it definitely lifts people up.
With him in particular, I think he would have been so close to winning MVP of Division 3. He didn't do it, but he would have been so close to that. If he wasn't second, I would have been shocked. If he wasn't second or third in that list, I'd be shocked. He would have been so close. So we've got him going into next season already. There's a couple of players that we're losing. Zachary Arby, Alex Grant is a potential. Eric Dew. There's a couple. Ollie Blake as well, the captain. But you know what? With the university set up, we might be getting a 6'8" American guy turn up next year.
Yep.
From what I hear, I don't know if that's happening, but it then tone changes again.
Yeah, just a bit.
So it's a real exciting time for Portsmouth. It's a real exciting time, for the clubs altogether. I think the challenges we'll have is because of the university setup.
Yep.
And you've got the players kind of might be doing a master's degree, let's say, and they come in and then they go. Well, that's a shame, because you're losing out on. You've got a player for 1 year, or maybe 2 years, or 3 years, and then they, move on. But with the youth setup, those guys are coming through. Well, hopefully they're around Portsmouth, so they're not going anywhere. So, yeah, the setup's there.
It's really encouraging to hear, because you said 10 years it's been. since Portsmouth had a team in that National League. Decade.
Yeah. Yeah, it was literally 10 full seasons where we haven't had a National League team.
And yet in the 80s, Portsmouth won
the BBL. Yeah, or
the BBL,
I think it was
the
called
whole
the Budweiser League. It was called, they were called Portsmouth FC Basketball Club. So I think it was John Deacon. He owned Portsmouth Football Club and Portsmouth Basketball Club. And Portsmouth, one of the best teams in the country at the time. I mean, anyone who is aware of that would know Colin Irish, Alan Cunningham, Steve Nelson, Carl Tatum. I'm trying to think, Jason Colgan. Jason Colgan is an amazing example of what can happen in basketball. So he's from Portsmouth, arguably one of the best players produced from the Portsmouth area. He was playing in the BBL and winning the BBL with, these Portsmouth/England players.
Yep. And then they all went to Worthing.
And they all went to when it folded, yeah. And a bit of a sad news. More recently, Carl Tatum passed away.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, he was an American player, but I still remember watching him play. What a player! What a player!
Yeah, it is. It's been a long time having that. Obviously, I have memories with you and your brother and some of the other team members who, back in the 80s, going to the game, it gets to half time and everyone will try and run on the court or that sort of thing. Fast forward to now,
doing it again.
The kids are all doing it again, and you see, the refs going, "Get the kids off the court. We want to play second half." And it's at the same time you think it's great because there's all these families there, and it is because of the whole environment that is created. It's a show.
Yeah.
And I guess it's what's the limit? If you have to change venue, for example, that'll probably bring its own problems about sound, and it will have a different PA system, or maybe you can't sit where you sit currently, and it'll be a different positioning. I don't know. I
think normally the announcer or musical director, whatever you want to call it, they'll sit on the table with the table officials, like doing the record book for the game. That's normally where they sit. We only sit on the other side of the court because of a cable, a wire management issue where our cable is a certain length. And
I just assumed it's because you're noisy.
Well, we do want the speakers on the other side.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is when we would have a challenge, and we'd probably have to go to 4 speakers and point them at the crowd.
Yeah.
When you got two ends of bleachers. But you know what? It's a nice problem to have.
It's a bit like in movies, where when you're playing a game, for those who haven't been to a basketball game or experienced it, it's very much like in the movies where you have the sound effects going on in the background. And if I want to think like Jaws as a perfect example, watch Jaws and then mute it, and all you see is just a fin come out of the water. Not only is it suspense in that instance, or something like Halloween with the old diddly, and you just hear, oh no, Michael Myers is there, sort of thing. We're so wired that sound is part of any sort of experience, that when you're playing it in game, it really, like you say, it adds to that effect, and it really
enhances it, doesn't it?
It motivates not just the players, but it motivates the people watching, who then motivate the players, and it's such a cyclical thing.
But am I allowed to do this because of copyright and stuff like this? But as an example, just with some of these now, I mean, this is the classic one, isn't it? It starts off quietly. So here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, your game tonight. You got Portsmouth Force taking on Cardiff Archers.
And
see what I mean? I'm not making much effort at all, and all of a sudden it's like, well, okay.
So is that your intro? Is that the Portsmouth music?
It's not. There are a couple that I would use. I mean, for the away team...
Are you staying the same as you did last year, or are you going to do a different song?
I don't know.
Pressure.
For the away team, again, it's subtle. again, it's not. We're not taking the mick. It's just subtle entertainment.
Subtle.
So at the moment,
What's the current intro song?
So we'll do this and we'll talk about. I'll fast forward it to the bit. So basically, who are you? So that's the away team, and as I'm talking to them, it'll be like, "Hey, God, I'm a 15 in Manchester." It'll be very monotone from my perspective.
Yep.
What I wanted to play, and my brother talked me out of it. He goes, "No, Paul, that's probably a step too far." And now the away team. That's originally where I was going to go. Was putting the Darth Vader thing.
Yeah, I can see why, but I mean, some people would argue you're empowering them a little bit because.
Well, exactly. That's what Andrew said. You're saying there that the baddest guy in the galaxy, and that's why we went with who.
I'd be
are
psyched
you?
if I was like, oh, okay, it's the Imperial March, I believe it's called.
Do you want me to do the Force intro?
Oh, hell yeah!
Okay, here we go. So this is when the lights go down. Lights go right down.
Remember, he said this is a subtle intro.
And I'll wait for that thing to kick in and I'll do what I do. And now, let's hear it for your Portsmouth Force! At guard, number 7. And then I'm off.
You're right.
That's our current
soul.
thing.
Yeah.
But that's the league guidelines. You can be more enthusiastic. That's how I've taken that.
So are you going for like something less subtle? Is that going to be, I don't know, Pantera or something else?
Well, there's a couple. You know what?
Maybe
There's
Slipknot
a really good one that around the Pirates of the Caribbean. Dun,
Okay.
dun, 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 dun. But again,
Okay.
I don't know. That might be. There's so much thought that goes into this that I don't think people realise. So, for example, at the moment,
So the sound effects that you talk about,
yeah,
you actually wrote a program to be able to play those.
yeah,
So that you can use it a bit like a soundboard, but in a way that you can use it for basketball.
yeah.
and
So I've
control
got a touchscreen laptop, wrote a program, big buttons, and so for example, you press the button, and you'll get some of the things that you're playing earlier.
Yeah, so it'll be like a like a sound effect or that sort of thing. I've just scored a basket. Bang, there you go.
So yeah, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of thought that goes into it. So it's like when the players first come on the court, from my perspective, I'm like, I want to kind of do the same thing every time to create familiarity. But I want to create something that represents Portsmouth. Like, this is Portsmouth now. So this is what we got when they first come on the court for the game. It's trying to get that Portsmouth.
Is that from the football?
This is used by the Celtics, but it's you've got the ocean right there. That's why you've got that Irish. And they talk in when he kicks him into the I guess in the chorus, he starts talking about. You'll hear it in 2 seconds. But this is good. The players are coming on the court.
Okay.
My volume's just shot right up.
Yeah.
Like sailorish.
Yeah.
Like pirate-ish.
And I mean, when you're changing it and you're doing all that sort of stuff, you know what the venue is. So you've got, I know, I put the speakers here, I'm going to set everything up that way. That's where people are going to sit. But I know when at the beginning of the season, it was a case of trying to find where the speakers go. Because a bit like when you turn up to a gig you've never played before, even though you might be familiar with the space, we never had any time in there just to set stuff up. So it was like the night that we were setting up, we'd get there like 3 hours before tip, set everything up, and then just try and figure out, does it sound good here? Does it? Because, for those listening, Ravelin is university
Huge.
sports hall. So you can imagine it's a sports hall with gigantic ceilings. If you had a concert in there, you'd get 1,000 people in there if you wanted to.
Oh, easily.
And because of that, you've got floors that are super, super echoey. There's a hell of a lot of reverb and everything going on in there. And the inbuilt system in the ceiling is...
it's all right.
It
but
sort
you
of
can...
complements in terms of like a background noise.
Yeah.
But it just gives a... But
well, that's what we've got. We got the two what I call the jet engine speakers facing them, and then the supporting noise coming from the ceiling.
And the only way you'd be able to change that is to have those tiny little bullhorn kind of speakers on the actual stands themselves.
Yeah.
A bit like where you have, I don't know, you go to those events, or I'm not saying a baseball game, but those other ones, and you hear when people talk through it, it all goes a bit nasal like that.
Yeah.
Because it's just there for vocal. They don't really do much else. That's the only way you could combat such a massive room and deal with any of that. You can't deal with it.
I think we've kind of figured out a way to do it as it is.
Well, that's why those last 4 or 5 games, it started getting more comfortable because everything was getting set up in that right way.
And like, there's a challenge every week. Every week there's a challenge. Like one speaker, what's going on? Oh, I've plugged it in the wrong part of the mixing desk or something like that. You know what? The biggest challenge I have, and I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's more so my kids coming up to me, asking me something as I'm announcing. They're just going, Dad, can I get some water? And I'm just like, God, number no, I can't get you some water. I'm just doing the announcing. Give me a second. That's hard work, because then all you can hear in the background is, I want some water, please. And you just...
I thought it was better when you were trying to do an interview after, and your middle child decided to run in and say hello to everyone on the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
Because you forgot to turn it down.
Yeah. They all like the mic.
They all like the mic.
They all want to say something.
Oh, well, of course. But, I mean, again, that's just adding to building an entertainment package.
Yeah. And I generally think, from what I've seen, I don't want to say something and upset someone, but I don't think anyone is at the level we're doing Div 3. I think you have to go to Div 1 to get a similar comparison.
Really?
And the ones I've seen at Div 1, again, I'm looking at going, again, it feels like, I'm going to be biased, but it feels like we just got a little spark or something. I mean, look, again, just to highlight the fact, Portsmouth Force is National League Div 3, and we've got an attendance and a setup that's comparable to National League Div 1.
Yeah.
And we're talking,
Is there a difference in venues? Just that, but what sort of venue would a Div 1 play in? Would it be a similar venue or bigger or?
No, I think it would be similar. From what I've seen, the Kestrels, they've got the nice court because it's a pure basketball court, so none of the crappy badminton lines and all that. And
not that we dislike badminton here, but
it's a really nice court. But then you go to Reading. What Reading do is imagine a wooden court, and you've got all the different lines everywhere. They get tape that looks like wood tape, if that makes any sense, and they put it over the badminton, the football lines, all the other lines, so then it looks like it's just a basketball, the lines.
I wonder if anyone's tripped over the tape.
No, they haven't. And then
really?
Well, from what I saw, no one tripped up. And then at the end of the game, they come and rip off all the tape again to expose all the lines. That's one way of doing it. But generally, the setup, from what I've seen, to MBL 1, 2, and 3, is you'll have one side of bleachers.
So your experience of playing basketball obviously goes back to when you were young, and going through becoming, from a youth player to a divisional player to playing National League, and then into reffing. And now you're coaching, so you've gone completely full circle.
Yeah.
Do you think there's value in people doing reffing or understanding those challenges? Because you've mentioned several times about when you're talking through with the music and doing this as a show, that you're getting not only the crowd involved, but you're getting the coaches and the refs, and you're getting everyone on side to say, we're doing this to lift up, rising tide. Let's raise the whole game. And you have to get the refs on side on that. But do you think people need to, like from a player or coach's point of view, have a bit more understanding with the refs, or the refs have more knowledge from, the BE about what you're trying to do here?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's lots of elements of what you said where I would advise anyone involved in basketball to learn to be a referee. It is a different game that is happening within the game. So
has your game as a player changed?
100%. So and it evolves in a different way. So
do you argue with the refs in a different way now?
Historically, yeah, 100%. I would have been very vocal with referees, and that's just a lack of, on my part, of understanding that part of the game, I think, is how I'd look at it. Maybe I'm just getting old and that's not my view on it, but as I've been a ref, I can appreciate, that ref might have had an angle that I can't see over here. They might have, they're human, they're going to make mistakes, but they might see something different from where they are to where I am. However, if I know how the game of the referees, so where they're standing, where they need to stand. So let's say a referee is standing all the way at the other end of the court and the play's down the other end, and they blow the whistle, make a call. Well, I'm not going to have a go at the ref, but I'm like, Del, there's a call here. I'm trying to understand because I'm trying to win the game. Like, is a call allowed to be down there? Or I'm asking, rather than complain, you're asking questions.
Okay.
And
does that work for you?
I think it adds elements. It add elements. So, for example, and you know what? I mean, there's a subject you're kind of touching on here where there's a whole psychological level of basketball being played that people aren't aware of. And there's when I was playing, the ex-England manager is a guy called Mick Byrne, and he 100% understands fully that game that's being played within the game. So he will he might say one comment that to the other team, to a referee, to someone on his team, and it completely changes the game.
Yeah.
So this is a really recent example. The Portsmouth Fury, I've been coaching them with Andrew, and we had, on the Saturday we had the cup final,
yep.
and on the Sunday we had the playoff 2 playoff final, and we won the Saturday. We're losing by 15 at half time.
Yep. And
I can see Mick's over in the corner, so the referee blows the whistle for half time. I look at Andrew, deal with the players. I go straight to Mick and go, Mick, what am I doing wrong? What do I do? And he just said just one thing. He went, where are they scoring, Paul? I went, inside. He went, okay, do something about that. I went, okay, right. So then I changed our defense and just crowded down the middle. Within 4 minutes, it was a tied game in the third quarter. We didn't go on to win it, but within 4 minutes, the game was tied of me making that change. And what he did say to me after the game, he goes, Paul, sometimes you make that change, you come back, then you need a change. You can't just stick in it. Make the change, go man,
keep
then
moving.
bring it back. Keep changing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's age and experience, isn't it? Talking there.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? There's so many stories I've got with Mick. He's just an absolute legend in Portsmouth. We could go on forever talking about the Staff National League. Mick's been vital, like from when we were kids, teaching us at that. I think it was 5 years old, something like that.
Teaching me and throwing you out, but
yeah, wow, it's lessons, isn't it? But he was coaching everyone. So he was coaching from all the little kids, all the under 12s, 14, 16, 18. I mean, in those days they called them Portsmouth. You had Portsmouth Pirates, Portsmouth Smugglers, Portsmouth Buccaneers.
There's that picture of you in the paper, isn't there, with John Spider Sally?
Yeah, that was amazing. That was John Spider Sally and Jason Colgan.
Yep.
That was John Sally came down and did an exhibition, and he turned around and saw me playing and went, oh, he might be a good player when he's older. Let's have a picture with him. And Jason Colgan came in, and that's the one that got in the paper. I've still got it at home. So yeah, Mark, I apologise, but my car I'm running out of time on my car.
What, is it turning into a pumpkin or something?
Possibly, yeah. No, it's in where it's parked. I'm running out of time.
Yeah,
so
no worries.
It might be something we have to put a pause in.
We'll do a pause and we'll pick it up another time. But yeah, I think we've got I've got some good music questions for you, because in one of your other guises, you obviously play guitar, play keyboards, and you've come back to piano from not playing it for quite a long time and off and on, etc. So I think we'll do another interview. Delve into that.
Oh, more than welcome.
But no, I think it's I wanted to wrap this up, but it's really interesting because a lot of people think of live music. What I don't think of necessarily is live entertainment. You think of theatre, you think of performances, and people don't always associate a sport with something that is a live entertainment. And basketball is one of those few things that actually can cross that whole merger between you're going for an evening out, bring the kids out, bring the family out, bring your friends out, and you actually have a nice night out. It's not just, and what makes it's the atmosphere, it's the music, it's the sound, it's the
things you're not even aware of. But if you look at anything, you bring music and sport together, you create something magical. If you look at after you watch like a football game, they'll do the highlights, but they'll slow them down or something, and
the famous intros
have the music
like Match of the Day and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
even to the
associated with the football, isn't it? Straight away, you just play that.
I could show you an image, and
the song comes in.
Of a song.
Yeah, 100%. It's so intertwined with that, but it's one of the few sports. Obviously, I'm biased with it, but it's one of the few sports that really does merge having entertainment as that. So, if people want to look for Portsmouth Force, give yourself a shout out. Where can they go? How can they get involved with Portsmouth Force?
If anyone's interested in Portsmouth Force, just go on social media and type in Portsmouth Force.
Wow. You should be in advertising.
You'll see,
there's terrible.
We're all on social media. I think the website will be based more around the youth development of basketball. But go on social media. We're definitely on Facebook. We're definitely on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you know what? If anyone's got any questions, I guess contact you and forward them to me.
Absolutely. If anyone wants to get involved with that, just give us a shout and we can put you in touch with the right people. Be yourself or Rob or Dan or Guess. But yeah, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
So ends another episode. Big thank you to Paul for kicking off this interview series. If you want to be on the show, drop us a DM, get on Instagram, noises were made, look back through our previous catalogue, keep up to date, don't forget to subscribe, all the above as the standard. But thank you so much for joining us. Wherever you are and whenever you're listening, take care of yourselves and we'll speak real soon.